All right, I am pleased to be joined by my next guest here, Scott Van Pelt. And actually, we work together. I do camera for his show, Sports Center, the midnight version with Scott Van Pelt. Scott, what's going on today? How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Rainy day. We got a little match play on TV. I love that golf course in Austin. I think it's a fun course to just watch match play. So I was keeping an eye on that and just waiting to get a chance to visit with you. So I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's crazy. Whenever we have strange weather here in the DMV area, I think about our debate that we've had a little bit on and off, winter golf. And I think about, for you, what is the threshold to play golf when it's cold and when we've got lower temp?
Well, I'm a snob with that. Like I think it goes back, Garrett, to when I lived in Orlando when I was with the Golf Channel, and I got so spoiled where like you didn't have to play unless it was perfect. And I would say this: I'm way more a fan of when it's hot as hell. Like around here, you know how hot it gets in the summer, like 90, muggy. Give me all of that. Like if I don't, I'll play on a threshold where you think, you may pass out from heat. But if it's cold, like I'm talking about like a fall day when it's like if like the 50s are in play and like there's leaves blowing around and it's windy and you're blowing on your hands. I I can't do it. And I sincerely admire, like you sent out that video of you playing here locally when like the ground was frozen. Like you were hitting your club on the ground and it was frozen. Like in a billion years, I would never do that. But I'm a snob about like a low, like there's a threshold of a low temperature, but there's no threshold. Like if it's 100, I don't care. I'll play golf when it's 100, no problem.
But here's my knock to that, though. Here's my comeback. When else are you going to see your boys? I mean, you moved back home to the DMV to Maryland with COVID. How else are you going to see your guys unless out on a golf course?
Um, I don't like anyone enough to go play with. Like I'll find a place to see them when the temperature's decent. Like look, golf throughout this pandemic has been a great way to kind of stay together and see one another, give people places outside, social distance, the whole bit. Uh, but like, I, it has to be, there's a certain temperature that just has to be attained for me to want to hang out for 4 or 5 hours with them at all. So, certainly not, out there when it's freezing and you can't feel your hands.
Well, here's a couple other positives, though. The rounds are like 245, 3 hours, which is great. You get in, you get out of it. And think about you. Your wife, Stephanie, is a big time runner. You've mentioned that so many times. What a great excuse. I'm trying to make you look good to your wife. If you tell her, hey, I'm going out and I'm getting exercise and I'm playing golf with the guys, that's gonna make you look good, SVP.
Yeah, I I don't care. I'm not playing golf. I'm never doing it. Like I think the beauty of the game is it's whatever you want it to be. It's like think about it. You want to go out and hit balls? Go hit balls. I like that a lot actually. Like I enjoy just the solitude of just a 7 iron. Just work on your tempo, right? It could be a half an hour. It's all you need. Or you want to go out and walk nine. Awesome. Go walk nine. Maybe catch up with somebody. Maybe it's just you and the world, you and the universe. Or to get together with your boys and do the 18. Like that's what's the beauty of what the game can be from just a few shots, maybe just chip and putt, maybe nine, maybe 18. Like it is a phenomenal. It's not one size fits all, and it's whatever you want it to be. And so you enjoy it in the winter, and never stop. You never stop getting out there, and your passion never wanes. And I respect it. For me, no.
Well, for sports fans, golf fans that want to know, what is your golf game like? You talk about hitting a 7 iron, finding your tempo, but what range do you score in? How often do you play?
Um, I have three little kids, and so for me, the beauty of the show you and I are part of together is late nights mean I'm around during the day. I'm the dad, like in the pickup line at school. It's me, um, and there's other dads, but not as many that are in that pickup line typically. I like being present for that. So I don't play a ton, and like if this annoys the hell out of people, they'll say, "What's your handicap?" And I say, "I have no idea," because I typically don't turn in scores. My hope is that I'm now that I'm back home, and my hope is I can start to play here as it's basically spring here, and start turning in some rounds and start working on a handicap. Because here's what I'd say about me. Like you see my swing, like the pro where I was hitting the other day, is like, I love your swing. It's great. And I said, well, thank you. My good's really good. Like I can hit it. The problem is I play so infrequently that I might stripe it down the middle, hit it on the green, two putt, and go to the next tee. And you're like, this guy's not a double digit handicap. I'm like, stick around. All right. Because I'm going to I'm going to block one right because I won't finish my swing. Then I'm going to get too quick over the top and I'm going to pull it low and left. Then I'm
Of
going to make a
course.
double. I'm going to make a double. So, like, that's a longer answer. Like, I don't have like well, I'm an 8 or a 20. Like, I don't, sometimes I'm going to play like I'm a 2. I'm going to play like I've never had a club in my hand, and I'm going to play like a bogey golfer, all in the middle. And all I hope, Garrett, is that I have a game that I could answer the question, what's my game look like? I'd love to be able to play enough to understand what it is, because I enjoy it. As I said, I really enjoy it. I just haven't I haven't carved out a ton of space. There's been a lot going on. We moved and this and that. So I mean, but now there's no excuses. Now it's about to be springtime here in the DMV, and it's about time for me to get out there and let's find out what the heck we got in the bag.
Yeah, and I love the weather. I've been to this area for this is my 5th year living in the DMV. April is awesome. You got the flowers in full bloom.
So good.
Temperature at 7 o'clock, and I love. I'm a twilight golfer, man. I love the temperature at 7 o'clock, 7:30. The Nats are starting their baseball game. It's just perfect outside.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Twilight golf's my all-time favorite. There's a shout out to a place called Wampanoag where I used to play up in West Hartford. Great little Donald Ross, wonderful golf course. And before I was married and had kids, like I was like I'd go out there late and just play until it got dark. Like that's my and I don't think we're unique. I think a lot of people share that feeling. Like there's something that golden hour late. It's a magical time on a golf course with friends or in solitude. I'm with you. I love that time of day.
Yeah. Well, you know what? With the game of golf, your dad, Sam, took you out to, was it, I believe it was Haynes Point there in DC, kind of the local public community. That was where you were introduced to the game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get a kick out of being as lucky as I've been, excuse me, been in the places I get to go. Like I wasn't a country club guy. Like I didn't, I live near Congressional now, and it's like, I know a bunch of people there. It's a wonderful place. And we'll see if anybody around here will have us as members. But like I didn't grow up in the country club setting. I grew up playing golf. Haynes Point's the first place I played, and there's another course called Northwest Golf Park, which is
Yes.
which is out in Montgomery County. I played there quite a bit because it was close to one of my very best friends' homes, and I mean, that's where I learned the game. Like I remember vividly, like teeing it up in the middle of fairways at Haynes Point. Like it's right down by National Airport, like planes are landing, the monuments, the whole bit. And, the thing about the game, again, it doesn't matter where you find it. Like you don't need to be some, buttoned up, country club kid. Like the game's the game, and it's there for anybody. And that's where I found it. But I was a good athlete. I was a good basketball player. I was a good baseball player. So I assumed, Garrett, that I just would be great at this because how hard could it be? Well, you know, it's every cliche, right? The ball's not moving, it's not. And then you're just like, why is this so friggin' hard to repeat? And all these years later, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah. So you were working in insurance in Maryland, and you get in your U-Haul, and you get the opportunity to go down to the Golf Channel in
Yep.
Orlando. What were those years like? Because I know you met Tiger Woods there as a freshman at NCAA, but you were there basically from about 94 to 2000, somewhere in that range.
That's it. Yeah, I was I had not found anything here that was going to work. I was lost. I was adrift. I just didn't have, I hadn't found it. And incredibly lucky that a guy I met that I interned for by the name of Paul Farnsworth at Channel 5 in Washington was part of the group that were getting the Golf Channel off the ground. And there was, I went just kind of on a whim. And I'd never been on television, none of that. I just was a guy, and I was a production assistant. And like my job initially was going through the Shell's Wonderful World of Golfs and like cutting out kind of superfluous stuff to make it fit in a half an hour window. Like that was my job. Like watching Chichi Rodriguez at Dorado Beach, like that was the gig. And there were a series of events where I did some behind the scenes things before the channel launched, and they were just goofy videos where they kind of thought, well, this guy's got some personality. He's kind of an idiot, and I mean, let's just see what happens. And they let me cover some things that weren't for air, but like the Golf Channel when it launched, Garrett, was available in like 10,000 homes. I mean, it didn't. You could take a shot and see, right? And it wasn't like there was enough eyeballs where people are going to go, what is this? And they let me cover some things, and then they let me actually do a couple of pieces, and then they sent me to cover the NCAA championship, the Scarlet Course, in Columbus, Ohio, in 1995. And I mean, I've said this many times, but like I was no more a reporter than I was an astronaut or a brain surgeon. I didn't know anything. I just was there, and I would go talk to these guys, and I met Tiger, and he continued on this remarkable course and was winning amateurs, and then won it at Pumpkin Ridge in '96. And I was there for that. And then, of course, he won the Masters in '97, and I was there for that. And then he and I sat down for an interview in the spring of '98 after he had won the Masters.
Bay Hill, right?
Correct. And that really changed the trajectory of what was happening for me, because he and I sat down, and I've told this story a lot, but we were supposed to talk for 5 minutes, and I had this yellow legal pad that I had written down every shot, and I was ready to talk about all of it, but they said, you got 5 minutes, and I'm like, well, I guess we'll see where we go. And 45 minutes later, he and I are now we've literally gone from Thursday front 940, second 930, through Friday, through Saturday. Now it's Sunday, and like he was so great, Garrett. Like I mean, you do a really nice job talking to people because you're prepared. You listen to what they're saying. You take them where you let them take you wherever they want to go. He was into taking me along for this walk, and I wasn't about to say, "Oh, no, hold up, Tiger, we got to shut it down, buddy." They told me 5 minutes. Yeah, no, the hell, like keep going, make it full, like stretch it out, buddy. And it was incredible how good he was, not because I was a great questioner, but because he was so open with his memories and recollections. And that, I think, established that, I mean, I shouldn't say established, but it was an interview that got picked up some, and it was more than others got about that moment. And I think from there, it was just a couple years later that my friend Jimmy Roberts left ESPN to go to NBC, and ESPN kind of needed a guy, and I was this guy that kind of had covered Tiger, and the next thing you know, I'm there, and 20 years later, you and I worked together in Washington, D.C.
Right. Well, you know what? I got a question on Twitter. Nate C. San Diego said, how did it feel to leave the Golf Channel? Because knowing how much passion you have for the sport, making that initial move to ESPN, what did that feel like? I
mean, the Golf Channel is forever part of my, I don't want to overstate, like call it my soul or something. That just sounds dramatic, but it's a place that I'm always indebted to, because they gave me a start, and I could have been there and been happy forever. I loved what I got to do. I really enjoyed the people, but ESPN is ESPN. And as much as, because I wasn't the country club kid, I didn't play AJGA events. I was a sports guy. And, the Golf Channel allowed me a really narrow window to look through to cover the sport. And ESPN allowed me an entire lens of the landscape of sports, where I could still do golf, and I'm still so honored to be part of our coverage of the events. And we've had a bunch of majors, and then we lost some, and now we've got some more. I mean, it's still a huge part of my work responsibility. I still get to do that. Still get to go to Augusta, which I'm grateful for. But I also get to do the NCAA tournament and the NFL and NHL and NBA and Major League Baseball and everything else. So it wasn't difficult because it provided more, not less. And I'm a big believer in life, Garrett, that if you shouldn't make decisions in life. I don't care what it is, relationships, a home, a job, whatever. You don't want to walk away from something. You want to walk towards something. I wasn't walking away from the Golf Channel. I was walking towards an opportunity that ultimately was going to give me more. And I'd say 20 years later, it's pretty clear that I walked towards something pretty good.
Yeah, but yet there were some great relationships there at Golf Channel. I think
yeah.
a Rich Lerner. I mean, you spent some time with him. There's some great stories. Well, what comes to mind with stories on Rich?
He's my guy. I adore Rich. He's one of the great storytellers. Um, he's a huge like sports guy. Loves hoop. His boys, I watch his boys grow up. The traveling with him, his passion for the game, like Dorneyville, PA is where he's from. He tells the legendary stories about this pro they had, a guy by the name of Frank Stockey. You got to get him on and get him to tell you Frank Stockey stories.
Got to.
I can't do him justice, but just he was this legendary pro that they had at this local course that they had, and so like he grew up in the sport, but he and I just immediately. He's a Philly guy. I'm a DMV guy. Like we just got each other immediately, and still to this day, like I was just watching he and Sir Nick. And every time I see him on there, I just smile just because he's my guy, and he's just so good at what he does, whether it's play-by-play and hosting or, giving you an essay that captures the essence of the day or an event. I admire his talents, but I know him as a human. So I have so much more of an appreciation for the Rich Lerner I know than the Rich Lerner that the people at home see on television.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Rich, I remember in 2017, the last Open Championship I've covered so far, we were walking the fairways #1 at Royal Birkdale, and he couldn't help himself but talk about his 76ers. He's like, oh, man, this draft is looking really good. I love the rookies here. And here we are at a major championship, and he just wants to talk basketball. He loves
it. He does.
But let me ask you this. What's the golf interview that you haven't gotten yet that you'd like to get?
I can't think of any. I mean, I can't think of anyone that I haven't. Go ahead.
Morikawa, you talked to after his PGA. You talked to Bryson DeChambeau after winning the U.S. Open. So some big names there. But
well, I think anytime you get a chance to talk to somebody in the immediate aftermath of the victory, I'm always grateful for that. Like, and you're part of our show, so you see these things when they happen. When you talk to LeBron after they've won in the bubble, and the reality of that moment hits them. I remember years ago talking to Dabo Swinney after they had won the national championship, and you know how these go. Like we'll take your listeners behind the curtain here. Like it might be in a commercial break where I say, all right, hey, just give me a second. We're going to be back in a minute, and as soon as we are back, I'll bring you in. And I told Dabo that, and I saw him kind of look down, and he just looked up, and there was this look on his face. It was a semi smile, and he didn't know that I'm still paying attention to him. And I say in his ear, it just hit you, didn't it? And then I see him kind of look around and smile. I said, yeah, you just beat Alabama. Y'all are the national champs. And he just shook his head. And it was so cool in that moment to see the human being really take inventory of that moment, the accomplishment. Like it landed with him. And so, I mean, I can't think of a person in the sport who I haven't had a chance to talk to yet. I've been in the game long enough where I've been really fortunate to cross paths with the legends. I mean, we talked to Jack and Barbara Nicholas from his kitchen during the pandemic. I mean, and I've known Jack for many, many years, man. It's crazy. Like, he's the greatest of all time, most accomplished player, really, in many regards. And he's just in his kitchen, and you see Barbara walk by and go, "Oh, hi, Scott." It's like, "Oh, hi, Barb. How are you?" Like, the fact that I know these people, like, people to me, I can't ever make sense of that, because I'm just the kid, from Haynes Point. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they have Shaq, Nicholas, and Barbara, and I'm in their kitchen. So I don't have somebody that I am pining away to get. I guess because I've been at it for so long, I've been so lucky. But to answer it, I'd say the interview I haven't gotten that I look forward to is the next one. The next person in that moment of accomplishment, especially if it's somebody that did it for the first time. Especially, like, say Xander breaks through at Augusta, or Justin Thomas wins at Augusta for the first time. Like, when you have that moment of the first one, Justin wouldn't be his first major, but it'd be his first green jacket. You know what I'm saying? Those are the moments that I get the most out of, because you feel the human side of these people as their athletic greatness really resonates with them. That's always incredible to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, actually, I remember that in 2015 at the Open Championship, I was covering Zach Johnson for his hometown paper. And I remember as he walked in the media center with the claret jug, I said, "Hey, Zach," and I waved at him, from 10 feet away. And he looked over me, pointed at me. And there what am I doing here at freaking St. Andrews? And I got the champion walking in, acknowledging me, kind of like your Jack Nicklaus moment.
It's crazy.
What is happening?
Well, we're lucky to have to have this seat adjacent to the greatness. And that's, I've often said about my job, all I am is a waiter. All I am is I'm bringing you the work of somebody else, right? But when you're actually there to witness it and have that interaction, that human interaction, what a blessing that is.
Well, speaking of interaction, I got to ask you, when did you first start getting comfortable jabbing with Tiger Woods? Because I know you guys are both college guys. Immediately, okay.
Immediately. I recognized that he appreciated the honesty. I'll tell you a story. 97 congressional, first round of the U.S. Open. He had won the Masters by $1 billion. First round of the next major, and he didn't play very well. And he comes off the course, and everybody and their mother is on this pool deck waiting for him, and he does the blow-by. And it's 1,000 degrees. People have left the media center because they don't think he's coming down because he hasn't played well, and he blows them off. Later that day, he ends up on the range. I go over to him on the range, and I'm like, he's hitting balls. He doesn't look up to me, but he knows I'm there, and he's like hitting balls. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "You can't do that." He's like, "I can't do what?" I said, "You can't just walk by. You got to stop." And now he looks at me because now he's like, "What?" Ready to go. He's like, "Nobody wanted to talk to Elk." I believe he was talking to Elk, was playing with Elkington that round. And I said, "Elk didn't win the Masters by 1,000 shots. Okay? Everything's different now. You're right. It's different because you're different. You just got to talk for 5 minutes and give them something and blah, blah, blah." And then I leave. The next day, he stops. He does his bit. See him again on the range. He's like, gives me like the head. "Come here. What's up?" It's like, "My dad told me the exact same thing you did." I'm like, said, and from a very early time, Garrett, he and I established with one another, like, I will tell you the truth. And I'm not like, you don't owe me anything. I feel like I owe you like just honesty. But I don't know. Maybe it's because I was younger and we had established some things over that couple of 3 or 4 years where we knew each other. I could be honest. I've always said there's like a line a mile long of people that want to kiss his ass. There's a very short line of people that'll just be honest with him. And like, he busts my chops, I'm going to bust his chops. And my dad, I've quoted this line 1 billion times. My father had this line: treat normal people like superstars, treat superstars like normal people. And so be honest with Tiger. And I know that he appreciated that. And look, he was incredibly generous and gracious with his time towards me. And I had to learn that just because we had a very cordial professional relationship, it didn't mean he owed me anything either. I couldn't be pissed off when he didn't want to stop. because
Yeah.
he didn't owe me that. I can ask and he might oblige, but he didn't owe me that. So that was on me to know. He don't know you. Um, and so, that going back to congressional and just the very early days, like he'd make fun of whatever, my thinning hair or whatever. And I'd bust his chops about whatever there wasn't as much to make fun of with him, but if you got an opening, you had to take your jabs. Cause it's, how about this? Like I had him on like Sports Center, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And
Yeah.
I just started making fun of his hair. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, when are you coming home, bro? I'm like, look at me. I am your GPS. And like, here's Tiger. We're on television. I'm making fun of the fact that he's hanging on to it very, very stubbornly. But that's many years of knowing each other where you can have that fun and know that he's not going to get all salty about it. Because, I mean, it's just our hair, you know?
Yeah. Well, I love that you mentioned your dad, Sam, and just his influence on you and the wisdom he kind of passed on to you. What do you miss most about your dad? And also your grandma, Letha, who you had said many times is the greatest woman that God ever let live. What do you miss most about grandma?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I sit here at my desk and I look at the pictures of them, I don't, I lost, people, I lost my dad young and, I did a thing on Sports Center, about him several years ago, which, and I just would give you this advice that like, share your life with people, share your stories because people connect to that. They connect to, the idea of love and loss and life. And I talked about thinking about my father. It was the day that he had passed and how I'm now older than he ever was. And, um, I just wish he would have seen what happened. I wish he would have been able to see his grandson, who's named after him, and to know my wife and to know his grandchildren, and to know that his boy got to make a living out of the passion that he really instilled in me, a love of sports, growing up, going to Maryland games together. Um, I miss that. My grandma, um, she loved me in such a profound way. I think that I feel like they're still here. I always say that. Like I feel like they're still here because what they gave me is still around. And like the love, I love my kids like out loud, powerfully, audibly. Maybe it's over the top, but I want them to understand at all times that they are loved. And when you know you're loved and you know that people have got you, that's a powerful thing that gives you the belief that you can do whatever. And so I miss that. Uh, I just miss their voices and their presence, but I feel them in a real way all the time. And it's interesting. I haven't even thought of it or said it out loud. So you asking me this gives me a chance to really think about that. But I do. I feel them truly with me. All these years later, and that's a good thing. That's when people lose a loved one, I often reach out to say to them, particularly a man that loses his dad, I'll tell him like that love you have, like it's never going to leave you. I promise you that, because I know that that's the truth. Like I'm not BSing you. Like it won't leave. I mean, it's 30 some odd years later and it's still here. So uh, I appreciate you asking me that to let me think about that out loud here.
Yeah. Well, one thing I really believe in, there's a song from Toby Mac. He's a kind of a hip hop Christian artist, and his song "Speak Life," and that's encouraging people speak life to other people, like be positive and reflect that out. We
Yeah.
think about our boy Tony Finau, be a light, and when people have their parents pass away, it's so important for me, if I know them well, I write them a card and I just want to speak life to them. I want to encourage them however I can. And there's only so much we can do as friends, right?
Yeah, but that's an
Um,
awesome, that's a beautiful thought. Tony's such a, he is a light, he is a light. And that's a great message to everybody to think about. Cause I mean, it's so easy to be negative and let the negative seep in. And there's a lot of that. but so much of that's like social media stuff. And I've often said, because I believe this entirely. That's not real. That's not a real. That's not how people are. Like that's how you are on a screen on a screen in your pocket. That's not how you are face to face with people. That's not how people are. So be a light. Like be a person who uplifts. You know, I admire and appreciate that in people.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. I love that you brought up your family, your kids, Lila, Sam, Charlie, your wife, Stephanie.
Uh-huh.
You had mentioned when you came back from the PGA Championship that you missed them. Being gone about 10 days, you missed them profoundly. So when you're traveling, how do you stay connected to them? What's your advice to kind of traveling dads out there?
Man, you know what's cool is like write stuff down. Like I have in my I have in my desk here. To hold this up. It's just a little note card. It has SVP written on it. Like jot down something. It's like not a text. Write it down with your handwriting, like something, an affirmation to your child that if they have a test that you're going to do great on this test, or just do your best, have fun. I love you. I'm thinking of you, like something that they can tangibly hold that isn't not FaceTime. No, for sure. I mean, like that. We have an ability now to connect in ways that didn't used to exist. So I mean, I FaceTime my kids today. They're actually down in Florida, and I'm back here working for the week. So I miss them. Um, but I think when you're gone, leaving something of you behind that they can see and hang on to is powerful. And your words are powerful when you leave them with something that's affirming, that uh, that cements their belief in self, so that they don't need you to tell them that they can do something. They think they can do it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
I'm a big proponent of that. And my couple of my kids are too little for it to really matter. My daughter, though, I write stuff down and leave it for her all the time. She might pitch it. I don't know. But you know what? To be fair, I pitched some of their artwork through the years. You save everything your kids make, and then eventually you realize, you know what? This is just some scribbles on a piece of paper. We're probably okay if we let this one go.
I love it. Well, here's the thing. You mentioned in passing that your wife, Stephanie, loves Amazon Prime. She's always ordering stuff on Amazon, comes to the house. This is an
Yeah.
interesting thing. I want to get an idea for listeners at home with the Van Pelts. How annoyed do you get with all these boxes? How do you guys manage everything? How does she do it?
I just get a box cutter. I feel a great sense of accomplishment if I can box cut everything and get it into the recycling bin for the week. And I mean, it's just, look, the world's become so convenient where if you need, a gross of paper towels, like, I don't know, 100 rolls, well, then by all means, send a box to the house. And now we've got them. And you could get things sent. So many things that we used to just have to go out and get. Well, now you can just have them sent. Okay, great. Well, my thing is just, I am Mr. Box Cutter Man. I'm not good at a lot of things. I'm not handy. I'm useless in many respects, but I can cut the hell out of a box and make sure that the things that arrive on our porch on a daily/weekly basis get very neatly and cut up into small portions, put in the recycle bin, and taken to the side of the driveway. I'm quite good at that. That's my number one trait as a spouse: loving my family and cutting up boxes.
Oh my gosh. So who's the one that normally picks up the kids from school typically?
I do. Well, I mean, we have a couple that are in the same window, so we kind of have it scheduled. Like I get the boys every day, and then my daughter, I have special sort of 2 days a week. I get my daughter, and that she has managed to weasel into. Dad takes her to Sprinkles, which is an ice cream place that's not far from here, and it's like I joked with her on the drive home. I'm like, I don't think you want to spend time with Dad. I think you just know that you can absolutely push my buttons and get ice cream out of it. But again, I think I mentioned this earlier. Like the to me, look, there's a lot of things about what we get to do at night that I'm grateful for. I mean, the job's great fun. We watch games and talk about them. It's kind of ridiculous if you think about it. But the ability for me to be home throughout the day allows me to do, the pickups. And I tell my boys this, and it's the truth. The moment, the moment when I see my little guy and they see me and get excited and I put him in the car, that's the best moment of my day. That little bit. And there's this gas station on the way home. My wife gets so pissed. There's this gas station on the way home where somewhere along the way we stop to get a gas station treat. Now, what a gas station treat is an ice cream. And there's this river road in Bethesda, Maryland, where there's this Sunoco, and the guys are awesome. Like I know all the guys now. They know Sam and Charlie, and like Charlie's gets picked up earlier than Sam gets picked up. So like I come in with one, he gets his gas station treat. Then Sam, Daddy, can we get a gas station treat? And then there's some days when I say they can't, and then they want to fight me because it's like they've become like Pavlov's dog. They're conditioned to think they get ice cream. And my wife's like, you don't just get ice cream for going to school. Like there has to be some kind of a reward system here. And I'm like, we kind of just get ice cream, because like that's the thing. Like I see Dad, I get ice cream, but I don't want to like be bribing their affection with treats. But I think that kind of that's what happened. My wife's tried to break me of the habit of just every day as an ice cream day. But I'm not kidding. Like when you see a little guy or your daughter, there in that sea of faces, and they see yours and they light up and come running over. I mean, what else is there, man? That's it. You got little kids, the deal. Like that love is so, it's just awesome. And I'm not kidding. That's my favorite part of every day is that little bit where we're driving, they're smashing a good humor bar in the back of the car, and we're talking about their day.
Yeah, it was funny you mentioned treats when you get them. Like I pick up Sophie, my daughter, and we have these Once Upon a Farm. What are they, like little fruit drinks? And I usually bring them, but when I forget to bring them, oh my God, I get there at school. She's like, Daddy, where's my surprise? No surprise, huh?
Oh,
and
man.
and I got here the whole 8-minute drive home. It's just you can't get it. You can't get away.
No, you can't. So, but you're doing way better. You're doing some sort of like farm fruit thing. I'm doing good humor ice cream bars. Like that's what I'm doing. I don't know. I'm failing, I'm sure, as a parent, but I don't know. I think they get the most important stuff.
Yeah, I'll wrap up the next few minutes here with one big thing, JT and the Masters. I wanted to touch on that. That father-son story was just unbelievable last week. Dick Hoyt, of course, he's the father, died at age 80. He had helped his son, who had cerebral palsy, his son Rick Hoyt, at the Boston Marathon many times. He had helped push him in a cart to run those marathons. I mean, you had mentioned, you tweeted, you said that this made me cry putting this together.
Yep.
Jimmy V would have been proud. It's how many times have you gotten emotional? Like, are there a couple other moments where you thought with one big thing?
Yep. I always know when. I mean, I shouldn't say it's going to be good, but I can tell when if I'm sitting I sit in this spot right here at my computer in my office. If I'm crying, it's typically a good indication that it's gonna land with our viewers. The thing I did on my dad, January 15th, day he passed, and I was sitting there, and I was sitting in my office, and the way the light was coming in on the walls reminded me of that day when he died. And I just started writing because it's cathartic, right? And I thought what I wrote felt very personal. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm doing this. I don't know if I want to share this. Not everything should be shared. Some stuff doesn't belong to anybody but you. But I decided I would do it. And the outpouring and the connection with people was just astounding. And I did it again with Lila on her birthday. I talked about being a girl dad. I said, if you're a guy and you grew up in sports and you're thinking you want a boy, I get it, but you should root for them to tell you it's a girl. And I explained why. And then I talked about my daughter. And that might have been an even bigger reaction than Dad. And this was amazing. This happened. some made up thing.
Yeah.
The next day, Golden State beat Houston in a playoff game, and we had Steph Curry on live with us. And we got to the end, and I'm trying to let him go because Steph has been an incredibly kind supporter of our show, has come on with us countless times. Um, and I'm trying to let him go, and he's like, hold on, hold on, hold on. I was like, I want to tell you, thank you for that thing you did on your daughter. At the time, his son hadn't been born yet, but he had two girls. He's like, I'm a, girl dad. That means a lot to this and that. And I'm thinking, here is this generational NBA superstar. After he had an astounding performance, Garrett, he had 23 points in the fourth quarter. They beat Houston without Durant. It was remarkable. And he's saying, wait. He didn't care about that. He wanted to talk to me about the thing I wrote about my daughter. And I remember I was crying writing about that because I'm an emotional guy. Like, I don't attempt to keep my, sadness or like that case, it's not sadness. It's just I moved to tears, but because of love. Like, I don't suppress that. I just, it is what it is. I embrace it. And that writing about dad, writing about my daughter, and writing about the Hoyts, Team Hoyt, because again, I thought about, I know you love your kids. I know I love mine. I know the people listening right now, we're not unique. We all love our kids.
Yeah.
But like, if your child had a disability and couldn't, and they told you, Dad, when we run, I don't feel like I'm disabled. Well, you do whatever you could so you could help your kid not feel that way. But would you run 1,000 marathons? I wouldn't. I'm just not good enough. I'm not that good a man. And so I was just so humbled thinking about how profound that love is. And it just moved me to tears. Just what a remarkable human. And so I shared it that night. And a lot of people, I mean, I was hardly the only person at the show that talked about it. But yeah, that, like, whenever I write and I share things that are personal or things that make me emotional, I find that invariably they tend to connect with people. And that's really what you're trying to do, is connect with people.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Oh, okay. Sorry. My wife's just putting something away.
It's all good.
Yeah, we're all good. Yeah, definitely connecting with people is such a huge part, well, really, of what you do in your job. And here's the thing. I've noticed you've connected really well with JT, Justin Thomas, just over these last few years. Why do you think that is, A? And B, tell our listeners the story of you bragging at Augusta recently by text with him.
Oh, well, he's a sports fan, it's our love of sports allowed us to connect, because he's a massive Alabama fan. I mean, people know he played there, and like, he was the game day picker a couple years ago when LSU came to town. LSU kicked their ass. I'm like, buddy, a little bad luck there. And he's like, what are you gonna do? But and his dad, his family are awesome. I see him out there, always out there. And the thing about golf that's so cool, Garrett, and you know this, is it's such a community, and you get to know people as people. And so I've gotten to know them. And we typically at the Masters, when well, it's not the men's grill, it's just the grill. When the grill was open for lunch, typically we would just, one year I was sitting there and they came in, sat, and the next thing you know, we're having an iced tea, and it became kind of an unplanned tradition. Like, anytime they're in there, if I'm in there, we just sit and visit and have lunch. And we've gotten to know each other as people over time. And I like him a lot. He had a tough spring. We know he, said something that I know isn't reflective of who he is as a person. I think as he said, I'm trying to grow and be better. I think we ought to be allowed to make mistakes and learn from them and grow from them. I believe that's happened for him. Sincerely, like, talking privately about, like, not the thing you have to say for a PR thing, but the thing you have to say to yourself to say, okay, well, how do I be better? Like, I think he actively wants to just be a better person. And I appreciate that, because I believe it's sincere. But you ask about, like, a text. I had to go down to Augusta to shoot something, and it was a perfect day. And on the way out, I just had, like, this video of me driving out by the par three course, and I sent him a text. I'm like I'm here and you're not, and he's just like, I am so jealous. And I'm thinking, like, here's a guy who's got the world by the tail, and he's got more money than Davy Crockett or whatever the line is from Forrest Gump, and like I'm actually able to kind of be like, yeah, hey buddy, check it out. And he's like, like you kind of get one up on him for the moment, but then when Maryland played Alabama, like we jokingly, like he had just won the Players and he came on with us on SportsCenter, as you know. And I said, well, if Maryland plays Bama, we'll bet 2.7 that you just won. And as Alabama was raining threes in the other night, I had to send a note. I said, I think I owe you 2.7. And he said, you get me lunch at the Masters and we'll call it even. So I think we're good. At least I hope we're good, because I don't know where I'm getting the 2.7 to pay him.
Oh, so you don't have to get a second job at this point then.
If I
Hopefully.
do, if I do, I'm just gonna. I'm gonna give up. I don't know how I'm gonna sort that out.
No ice cream runs with the kids after that. Well, we talked about Augusta National. I got to ask you as we get into it here in these last couple minutes. What is it about that course this year? Who are you liking? What's kind of your pick?
I think the thing about the Masters, and you know this, having been there and covered it, is that there's like you go to an Open, right? And you get there and you're like, this course doesn't suit this person or that person. You feel like there's maybe 3 or 4 people that just, not their week. And maybe there's 3 or 4 people that you think, maybe this is their week. You go to Augusta and you're like, well, let's see. Look at the list of people who have won. Well, they're in the mix. Okay. DJ just shot 20 under. He's there. Well, Rob hasn't won it yet, but is this a course that certainly fits him? Justin Thomas is a guy who's gotten better there each year, figuring things out. Then there's guys like Justin Rose, who, how many top fives does that guy have? A ton. Didn't win when he had his chance with Sergio. Okay, well, he's on the list. What I'm getting at is that there are so many players. Xander Schauffele, Louis Oosthuizen, didn't win, came close. Jason Day didn't win, came close. Like, there are so many people who go there hoping they'll contend, having contended in the past, and with every reason to think that could happen again, that there's like 25 people that if I'd be shocked if the winner doesn't come out of that group. But then saying who that person is with you right now, well, there's the challenge. I'm going to do something. I'm going to say Justin Thomas, because his trajectory there is heading in the right direction. I think the players win only helps sort of feed that confidence. Didn't play great for the first 2, but then played really well over the weekend. I feel like he's trending in the right direction, and I'll pick him. But really, I'm just trying to do Xander Schauffele a favor, because for the past 8 majors in a row, I've just picked Xander because he keeps being there, and I'm like, he's going to win one. And if he wins when I don't pick him, I'm going to be mad I didn't pick him. Well, I'm going to divorce myself from that and just say I'll pick someone other than Xander, so that I'm not putting the bad karma on him. And I'll give you JT, just a guy who has gotten better each time. That tends to be, not always, but tends to be a recipe there. Get there, love it, don't play great, figure it out. Like DeChambeau, could he overwhelm the course? Yeah, but he went out and said par 68, and the membership was like, is that right? Well, what do you know about that? He hasn't putted well there. Can he figure out how to putt better? Yeah, sure. But that, as you know, tends to be a course where accumulated knowledge and understanding is as important as anything. And I feel like Justin now, it feels like it'll be about 5, maybe 6. I don't even know. But whatever, the trend line's been good for him there.
Yeah. He started there in 2016. He really, it's crazy when you look at his career. He's only played in 1 Ryder Cup team. So there's just a lot that he could add to his resume, which he's already done so much, winning the Players now, and now he's really trending. So he's looking good. There's a lot of players who are looking good going in. What would be the best storyline? We talk about DeChambeau, we talk about JT, but there's a lot of other players. Rory for the career Grand Slam. What would be the best storyline for golf?
I feel like Rory, just because he's honest to a fault, right? And I'm amazed. I was talking about this when I was hitting balls the other day. Like, I'm amazed that somebody like Rory would think he had to do anything different. But he admitted,
Yeah.
like, he saw DeChambeau go to Winged Foot and overpower it, hit it 8 miles long. Didn't matter if you hit it in the rough because you could just power it out of the rough because you're so much closer. And he sort of was on this quest for more speed. And it's like, how much faster does your swing need to be, man? You don't need to do anything other than play your best. You're good enough is right there on the short list of as good as any. But I think for Rory, the new dad, to win, to complete the slam, I feel like that would be a wonderful story. Um, I just, he's just such a super guy. I saw him in November. I didn't say one thing about golf. I just smiled and I said, Poppy. And he just shook his head, his young daughter. And I just said, bro, you don't even know how much you can't. He's like, oh, I'm in love. I'm like, oh, you're in love. I'm like, just wait till the first daddy, wait till the I love, just wait. And I mean, here I am saying this. Everybody that's like older than me says, oh, like you're some expert, right? Your girl's 7 years old, soon to be 8. You know, it only gets worse for you too. And I'm sure it does. But he's just, he's a thoughtful, interesting human being who also has played some great golf. So I think when you go there every year, like if you go to the PGA every year, like Spieth, he needs that for the Slam, right? But
Yeah.
he goes somewhere new every time. So you don't have to show up at the same place and hear the same question. Like for the rest of Rory's career, until, or maybe not, he wins there. Rory, what would it mean to you to finish off the Slam? Right? He got asked in November. He's going to get asked next week or 2 weeks from now. And if he doesn't get it now in 2022, Rory, what would it mean? 23, what would it mean? And at some point, you're just like, well, it would mean the same thing that it would have meant when I answered this 4 years ago. But like the thing about that place, I think you and I have had this conversation off the air. Like when you get your chance, you got to grab it, man. Because look at the list of guys. I mean, Weiskopf was going to win it there. Didn't. Greg Norman was going to win it there. Didn't. Ernie was going to win it there. Didn't. David Duval was going to win it there. Didn't.
Davis
Justin
Love.
Rose. Yeah, Davis Love, sure. But like Justin Rose, all those top fives finally in a playoff with Sergio. And Sergio, it was his time, finally, not Rose. Like that place, I mean, it's amazing how people like O'Mara was that the year he won, like no one was thinking O'Mara. Then all of a sudden it's like, wait, if he makes this, he wins. Charles Schwartzel, if, oh my gosh, did he just have a great 5-hole stretch? Yeah, Danny Willett, right? Like those guys had this incredible hour of real time and 4 and 5-hole stretches that won them the Masters, as opposed to guys that we would have always thought would, who are seemingly always in the mix and just for whatever reason. That's what makes that tournament endlessly fascinating to me is the people that get that one moment where they're the car in the fast lane and they get to the checkered flag, as opposed to the guys that just seem like they're on the lead lap, but for whatever reason, man, you know, it just isn't, it isn't to be. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll close with this. Your memory is unbelievable. It's fascinating the way you're able to think about, recall, hey, we had this conversation off air. How many times have you said that to 200 people in your life? Oh, yeah, we've had this conversation. You can remember conversation. You can remember Len Bias being yelled in the Maryland basketball game going as a kid with your dad. You can remember details so well. Let me ask you this. The most sentimental moment you've spent at Augusta. What detail comes to mind?
Whew. I'll tell you, sitting on the set with Andy, with we were on the set when Tiger made the putt in 19, and from where like people that, and I'm your audience is golf or golf nuts, so probably a lot of them have been there. But if you haven't, the best way to explain it is that the 18 sits sort of up on this hill on the other side of a bunch of trees. And if you kind of look like via a drone and you're kind of coming up over that hill and over those trees. And now as you move out towards what's Washington Road in Augusta, there's this giant range that they've created. And at the back end of that range is a TV, an open air TV set. So it's a pretty long way away, but it's close enough that you could hear however many thousand people chanting, "Tiger, Tiger, Tiger." And, you know, Andy and I have known this man a long time. We know what he was, we know what he went through, and I knew what winning meant to him. And as you look over and you see him hug his kids, and the same spot where he hugged his father and his mother when he was 21. And Andy's like me. He doesn't hide from his emotions. You look and you see, you know, you see wet eyes, and you can hear "Tiger, Tiger, Tiger" as he's hugging his children. Like, that to me was a moment I'll never forget. Just for all that went into it, but just the sound of it. Like, that's it. People talk about roars. I've never heard anyone, like, it sounded like a football game. I mean, "Tiger, Tiger, Tiger." Go back and watch that sometime. Like, when I'm done with you, I'm gonna go on YouTube, and I'm gonna just listen to it. It's incredible, like the crescendo. And Nance and Faldo are brilliant because they know there's not one thing that we can say in this moment that will do anything but ruin it. So just lay out, and they let it go and let it go and let it go. It was just that's the moment for me.
Yeah. Well, you can follow Scott on Twitter at NotTheFakeSVP, and of course his SV Pod. You should check that out as well. He had Colin Morikawa on a couple weeks ago. You guys had a bet. You guys are going to get together in Vegas, maybe down the way. Sanford Steve.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see where that goes. But no, great listen there. But listen, been a lot of fun hanging out with you here for a bit, Scott, and I really enjoyed it, man.
I appreciate it, and I'm glad this worked out. You and I have tried it, and the technology wasn't our friend when we tried to do the whole live bit, but this is better anyway because it gives us a chance to kind of air some stuff out. And keep doing what you're doing, man. Your passion is a great service to people that love the sport, and I mean it. I mean, I've told you this privately. I would say it for your listeners. Just your love of the sport and how much of your time and energy you devote to it. I admire that, and so keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate it, buddy.
You got it.